Hello, dear students. I welcome you all on behalf of Sri Jayendra Rank Zone classes. Dear student, we are in a continuation of the chapter that is organism and population. And in previous class, we have already talked about the level of organization and the different biomes. Now, in ecology, we deal with the environment. And environment, so many factors are there. So here, in this lecture, we are going to talk about the major abiotic factor. Now, when we talk about the abiotic environment, it is known that abiotic environment include three categories of factor, or we can say three types of factor. One is climatic factor. Now, climatic factor, if we talk, they are light, temperature, water, and wind. Okay, these are the climatic factor. Another type of abiotic factor are the adapic factor. Now, adapic factor means the factor which are related to soil. These are the factors related to soil. Okay, and third are topographic factor. So when we talk about topographic factor, they are the physical factors. They are physical factors related to slope, altitude, and other factors concerned with surface behavior of Earth. Means the slope, altitude, mountains, these all are become a topographic factor. Okay, so three types of abiotic environmental factors includes. Among these all factors, the key abiotic factor, if we talk, then key abiotic factor, if we talk, they are temperature, then water, then light, and then soil. So these all are the, we can say, key abiotic factors. So these are the key abiotic factor. And if we talk about this, these all are the particularly, we can say, the climatic factor and adapic factor. Okay. So about all these four, we are going to discuss today the first. Now, first we are starting with the temperature. Now, when we discuss about the temperature as one of the important major abiotic factor, it is considered that temperature is most ecologically relevant environmental factor. It is most ecologically relevant environmental factor. We know that average temperature on we know that average temperature on land rises seasonally. It is increases seasonally. And we know that as we move from equator towards the pole and from plains to mountains, the temperature is getting decreased. Suppose this is the earth. This is the equator. Here, when we talk about a 20-degree latitude, that is north and south, it is known as tropical region. This is also tropical. Then 20 to 40-degree north is subtropical. Here also it is subtropical. Then 40 to 60-degree south and 60-degree north, this is temperate. Okay, this is temperate. And this region up to the 80-degree north and 80-degree south, these are the Arctic or alpine region. Now it is known that as we move away from the equator, the temperature decreases. So as we move away from the equator, the temperature decreases, and from plains to mountain top also temperature decreases. From plains to mountain top also temperature decreases. Now, if we talk about this all tropical, subtropical, and this region, it is known that this particular temperature play important role in latitudinal and altitudinal distribution of organism. So here, if we talk in polar areas, temperature is at sub-zero level, and high altitude to greater than 50 polar areas and high altitude you will see the sub-zero level, and polar areas and at high altitude you will see temperature at sub-zero level, and it is varies and it can be greater than 50 degrees Celsius, and tropical in tropical desert in summer. And there are some unique habitats such as thermal spring, deep sea hydrothermal vents where average temperature exceeds 100 degrees Celsius. So it is known that thermophiles are found in harsh habitat where temperature exceed 100 degrees Celsius, and they can be thermal springs and the deep sea hydrothermal vents. It is known that temperature play an important role play an important role in both latitudinal latitudinal and altitudinal distribution of organisms. If we take an example, then for example, mango, a tropical and subtropical tree plant. Mango is tropical and subtropical tree plant. So it is not found in temperate countries. It is not found in temperate countries like Canada and Germany. Same way, similarly, it is known that a snow leopard, which is a polar animal, are not found in Kerala forest and tuna fish, a bony tropical fish. Tuna fish is a bony tropical fish not found beyond tropical latitudes in ocean. Okay, so this is the what a temperature range based on which these organisms are distributed. Okay, so this temperature play obviously an important role in both latitudinal and altitudinal distribution of organism. Apart from this, if we talk about temperature, we know that temperature affect the enzyme kinetics and basal metabolism and basal metabolism. So it affects the enzyme kinematics and basal metabolism as well as activity and other functions and other physiological functions of organism. Okay, so this is the way how the temperature helps. Now based on the temperature, there are different types of organism we study. So first we are going to talk about the types organism based on temperature. So based on temperature, there are different types of organism. Okay. So here, when we talk about types of organism, here different bases are used. So first classification, if we study, it is based on thermal tolerance. Based on thermal tolerance organisms are classified into two categories. And when here based on the thermal terminals, organisms are classified into two categories. Now the first category is stenothermal, and the second category is the eurythermal. In stenothermal, the organism, this stenothermal here, this cannot tolerate organism cannot tolerate a large temperature variation. Thus, this organism are restricted to narrow range of temperature. Okay, so here organisms are restricted to the narrow range of temperature because the temperature is uniform throughout the year. In these areas, these organisms are found. So such organisms are known as stenothermal, and if we talk about the examples are polar bear, lizards, and abees. Apart from this, if we talk about eurythermal, here a few organisms can tolerate and thrive in wide range of temperature. So such organism tolerate wide range of temperature or large changes in temperature. And such organisms are called as eurythermal, and they are most of mammals and birds. So this is the first classification based on the thermal terminals. Now other classification of this organism, that is based upon thermoregulation and homeostasis, organisms are classified into two groups. The first group is ectotherms, and the second group is endotherms. Now, if we talk about the ectotherms and endotherms, dear students, in ectotherms, it is known that these organism cannot regulate cannot regulate their body temperature. So with changes in surrounding, so they cannot regulate their body temperature, and it changes with surrounding. Means the homeostasis is absent. And if we talk about such organism, they are also known as poikilotherms or cold-blooded organisms. And if we talk about the example, the plant and large number of animals, and large number of animals are ectotherms, poikilotherms, or cold-blooded organisms. But when we talk about the endotherms, dear students, this organism regulate their body temperature, which remain constant, which remain constant irrespective of surrounding. And here, so their temperature of body temperature remains constant. It is not changing with the environment. So here homeostasis is present. And this maintenance of their constant body temperature, this phenomena is itself a homeostasis. Now these organisms are also known as homeotherms or warm-blooded organism. And if we talk about example, birds and mammals are such type of organism. Now, apart from this, the third category of classification of organism based on temperature is there, where the based on the organism are classified into group based on occurrence in different climatic zone. Occurrence in different climatic zone. Now, it is known that as we have studied this in the particularly earth diagram, that if this is the, if we take earth and this we take equator, and if we take this temperate, tropical, then subtropical, temperate and arctic or alpine on north side, and south side same tropical, subtropical, temperate and alpine are there. Then this tropical climate, in these the megatherms are found. Megatherms are found, whereas in subtropical region the mesotherms are found. Then in temperate region microtherms are found, and in arctic or alpine zone hecistotherms are found. Now what are they? So if we talk about megatherms, they are adapted to high temperature throughout the year. Okay, and they are found in tropical region. If we talk about mesotherms, they are adapted to mild winter and high summer temperature. And if we talk about microtherms, these are microtherms where are adapted to low winter temperature and moderate summer temperature. Whereas hecistotherms, if we talk, they are adapted to brief summer less than 10 degrees Celsius and long snowy winter. Okay, so this are the different types of organism based on they are found in the different climatic zones. So if we talk about this thing, now in recent years, there is a growing concern about the gradually increasing global warming. So, as a global warming is increasing, we can say that as a consequences, the temperature range of this will increase. And if temperature range will increase or for the tropical will the temperature range will increase in subtropical, then will this subtropical part become the subtropical region will be a part of tropical. Same way temperate become a part of subtropical. Means the tropics are going to be pushed towards the temperate areas. Okay. So one of the important point that you should remember that due to global warming, it is known that it will push tropics into temperate because temperate temperature will be so high that it is equivalent to the tropic. So into the temperate areas towards pole, that is shifting of climatic zone and so tropics into temperate areas towards the pole and higher altitude in mountains result into result into changed species distribution changed species distribution. So such we can say the shifting of climatic zone can occur. So this is the first factor, which is the temperature. Now after this we are going to talk about the another factor, that is second one, that is water. And if we take water, it is considered as the second most important factor. It is a second most important factor influence the life of organism next to temperature. So some temperature is the ecologically most important factor is temperature. That is the first factor. But second, which is going to be affect, that is water. And we know that life originated in water through the process of evolution and sustainable unsuitable without water. Okay, so life originated in water and it is unsustainable without water. So it is important component of protoplasm as well. We know that it is important component of protoplasm. And water is present. It is known that water is present over more than 71% surface of earth as ocean, lake, rivers, ice cap, and glaciers. Okay, in all these things the water is present more than 71%. but its availability is so limited in desert that we know, and therefore desert organisms have evolved many adaptations, especially of water conservation in their body to sustain life. So desert animal, if we talk, they have water conservation adaptation. They have water conservation adaptation in their body to sustain life. We also know that water influence the overproductivity and distribution of plant, and the organisms which are found in water are known as aquatic organisms, and they also face a water related problem. So it is known that for aquatic animal, quality of water in which chemical composition, pH, temperature, etc., that comes under quality of water is important for aquatic organism. Okay, now if we talk about salt concentration, which is measured as a salinity, salt concentration, or salinity measured in parts per thousand for water bodies. So if we talk about salt concentration, it is known that in inland water, the salinity is less than 5 parts per thousand. But if we talk about the sea, it has 30 to 35 parts per thousand salinity. Whereas in hypersaline lagoons, it is greater than 100 parts per thousand the salt concentration. So this is all the measure of salinity in these different water bodies. Okay, so this is the water, which is the second most ecological relevant factor. And now if we talk about the organism and we classify this organism based on salinity tolerance, based on salinity tolerance, there are of two types, that is euryhaline and stenohaline. Euryhaline means organism tolerate a wide range of salinity. This organism tolerate a wide range of salinities, and the example of this are the salmon fish. Whereas stenohaline, if we talk, these are those organisms which are restricted to restricted to narrow range of salinities. An example is shark. Okay, So due to osmotic problems and lack of adaptation, many freshwater animals cannot live for a long in seawater and vice versa. So that is due to what? That's confined requirement, their narrow range of salinity requirement. Okay, so that are the stereohaline organism, and that is the second factor which we have discussed till now, that is the water. Now after this, the third factor which we are going to discuss, that is light. Okay, and if we know about the light, the visible part of electromagnetic spectrum, if we talk visible spectrum, its range is 390 to 760 nanometer. But if we talk about the PAR, that is photosynthetically active radiation, means which are useful in photosynthesis. This photosynthetic active radiation have a wavelength of 400 to 700 nanometer. Okay, and the radiation below the particularly this 400, 390 to 760, we know that. Suppose this is the 390 to 760, we know that this is visible range, and in this the PAR is there. The radiation which are below this visible range, they are UV rays which are found here. Okay, and which radiation which are found above the visible range, they are the infrared or heat waves which have a wavelength greater than the 760 nanometer. Okay, now out of this also we remember that the UV rays, if we talk, they are of three types. That is, this much is UVC, then here you will find UVB, and here we will find UVA. Because UVA, if we talk, its wavelength is, if we talk about UVC, its wavelength is 100 to 280 nanometer. The UVB radiation are 280 to 320 nanometer. And if we talk about UVA, its wavelength are 320 to 400 nanometer or 380 nanometer. And it is known that UVC is lethal, which is so harmful, which can cause a death. This is quite harmful, and this is moderately harmful. Now, how this particularly UV rays affect? Then it is known that UVC, which is lethal, and about half of UVB are absorbed by ozone of stratosphere, and a large amount of rest is dissipated by particles of troposphere. So only UVC and half of UV radiation are absorbed by layers, and large amount of rest is dissipated by the particles of troposphere. Only small amount reaches on the earth. So we can say half of the UVB and UVA radiation reaches on the earth. Okay, and of this it is known that UVB, if reaches to the earth, it cause inflammation of cornea known as snow blindness. It is known as snow blindness. And if we talk about the light, amount of light and intensity vary with the latitude and the season. And this light has so many importance for the plant. and so many importance for the animals. So if we talk about importance of light for plant, importance of light for plants, it is known that importance of light can be understood by its role in the process of photosynthesis, that is the production of organic food by the autotrophs. Means if light availability is then, so it is in photosynthesis, it has a too much importance, because without photosynthesis light reaction cannot occur, and without light reaction photosynthesis cannot occur. And it is known that the depending on the light requirement, if we talk, or requirement of light intensity, plant are of two type. So if we talk about the plants, they are of two type based on requirement of light intensity. And if we talk about the plants type based on the requirement of light intensity, they are of two type. One is heliophytes and one is cyophytes. Now if we talk about this heliophytes, they require high light intensity. They require high light intensity, and cyophytes require low light intensity. They require low light intensity. Okay. Many species of small plants like herbs and shrubs growing in a forest are adapted to photosynthesis optimally under very low conditions. So cyophytes are particularly adapted to photosynthesize at a very low condition, and because of this they are constantly overshadowed by the tall trees. The cyophytes are found at the group near about the, they are short sized, so they are found near to the ground, and they are canopied or they are overshadowed by the tall trees. Many plants are also dependent on sunlight to meet their photoperiodic requirement of flowering in photoperiodism. Okay, in photosynthesis they have. Now, apart from this, light has important role in photoperiodism. Light has important role in photoperiodism. Okay, and apart from this, it is known that light also affect processes like growth, reproduction, movement, and phenology in plant. Now, phenology means the study of a different plants and their occurrence every year. Seasonal occurrence means mango is growing in summer. Why it is growing in only summer? So such studies are related with the, particularly we can say that is a phenology. And if we talk about next, importance of light on or for animals. Dear student, we remember that the many animals use a diurnal and seasonal variation in light intensity. Okay. Okay. Diurnal means this during the day period they particularly survive. The seasonal variation of the light intensity is they require. Okay, and it is known that photoperiod, it is known that diurnal and seasonal variation in light intensity light intensity and photoperiod are cues for timing of foraging, means to forage for the getting their food, then reproductive and migratory activities. Okay, for all this is important. Now, the availability on the light on a land is closely linked with the temperature, because if the light is increasing, the temperature will increase. As the sun is the source of both, that is, sun is ultimate source of all type of energy. So ultimately, the temperature is going to be increased based on the light. Now, if we see the deep in ocean that is greater than 500 meters, the environment is perpetually dark. It is totally dark, and its inhabitants are not aware of the existence of the celestial source of energy called a sun. Okay, so we remember deep in ocean that is greater than 500-meter, the environment is perpetually dark, and the inhabitants, means the organism which survive there, are not aware of the existence of a source celestial source of energy, that is sun. Okay, so this organism which are found at the base of this particular, we can say, the ocean, or the at the deep layer that is about 500 meter, you will not see the presence. This organism are not able to know about the sun. So such organism which survive at greater than 500 temperature 500 meter deep in the ocean, such organism in this majority are, so majority are decomposers, and or we can say consumers, and they are dependent upon food material derived from producer, which are present at the upper layer. Suppose this is the water body, so here you will see the presence of producer. So whatever the food which is produced by producer and food material derived from the producer, that will used by this decomposer or consumer. Okay, so such a way this particular thing is found. So this is the what a particularly importance. Now, if we talk about a lake, how the light zonation occur in lake, that we need to understand. So let's talk about the light zonation of lake. When you see the light zonation of lake, suppose this is the lake, okay, this is the soil part, okay, this much, and this is the lake body. So this is the, what we can say, the shallow portion of the lake, where you will see the presence of some plants, and this region up to where the plants you can see, that region is known as the littoral zone. And apart from this, the region from here to here, where the water is actually available and that can be a deep inside, that is illuminating zone. Now, when we divide this illuminating zone, the light will reach to the littoral zone and that will reach up to the euphotic zone. Okay. And it can reach up to the despotic zone, because both are the photic zones. Euphotic, and this both are the photic zones. So in photic zone, the light reach, but in aphotic zone, that is a profundal zone, and benthic zone, you will not see the reaching of the light. Here, so here it is shown that as we go upward, you will see the presence of availability of light and the oxygen level. But as we go down, you will see the decrease in the levels of light and oxygen in the particular lake. Okay, so if we describe this different zone, then it is known that the littoral zone, which is the shallowmost region, it is exposed to wave action and is highly productive that is littoral zone. After littoral zone, there is limnatic zone, and if we talk about limnatic zone, it is a open water body where light reaches, and it is rich in plankton on the upper surface. Then after littoral zone and limnatic zone, in limnatic zone, if you will see, you will see the euphotic zone. It is known that euphotic zone receives maximum light above light compensation point. So what is compensation point? Compensation point is a point for this organism where the photosynthesis and respiration are equal. Okay. So at this, the above light compensation point, the light where the light compensation point is reached, the light above that, to that the light is required in euphotic zone. This organism required. But apart from that, the despotic zone is there, and it receives diffuse light at or below light compensation point. And this despotic zone is also known as twilight zone. And after this, there is a profundal zone. And this profundal zone is a dark zone where light is not going to reach, so there is no light. And benthic zone is the lowermost zone, and in this zone it is a bottom zone of perpetual darkness. Now, if we talk about the marine plants, this is the lake zonation. Now, if we talk about marine plant living in different depth of the ocean, do not receive all the color components of the visible spectrum. So when we see the vertical and horizontal distribution of red, green, and brown algae, They are limited in a part by the availability of the sunlight and therefore vary by a depth, latitude, sea condition, and ocean. So this vertical distribution of red, brown, and green algae can be explained by their accessory photosynthetic pigment. Okay, and this accessory photosynthetic pigment will give a particularly a characteristic color, and this concept is known as chromatic adaptation. So if we talk about the chromatic adaptation, it is known that based on presence of accessory pigment, they give characteristic color to red, green, and brown algae. So if you see, because of the blue-green light penetrate deepest in coastal waters, the accessory pigment of red algae absorb mostly green wavelength. Okay. So because of this, if you see the any water body, you will see at the bottom the presence of red algae. Why? Because red algae absorb mostly green wavelength, mostly green light, and the blue-green penetrates the most. Red algae extend to the greater depth of the light containing region of ocean, whereas if you talk about green algae, which have a pigment absorbing mostly blue and red wavelength, they are diminished rapidly in seawater and found at the shallowest depth. So here you will see the presence of green algae, and they are particularly absorb blue and red wavelength of light. So green algae are the shallowest. And the accessory pigment of brown algae absorb intermediate wavelength of light. Therefore, brown algae would be expected to be the most abundant at intermediate depth. So this is the brown algae. They absorb, we can say, intermediate wavelength of light of visible spectrum. So the uppermost is green algae, then brown algae, and then red algae. Such disjunction of the arrangement of this particular algae in a water body is seen, and that is due to the different accessory pigments. So this is known as chromatic adaptation. Okay, so that is all about the what light, which is acting as a factor, one of the major abiotic factor. Now after this, we are remaining with the last factor, and that we will discuss in the separate lecture, that is the soil. Okay, so three we have covered here: temperature, light, and we can say this water. These three major factors we have covered. I hope you understood well. Thank you.